So before this episode starts, if you do enjoy the Legged podcast and you do want to support us for just £1 a week, you can on Patreon. And with doing so, you get early access to all our episodes and an extra weekly episode of me and Jordan just chewing the fat. Thanks for the support. Nice one.
The Legged podcast is sponsored by Montrex. Montrex is a cutting-edge sportswear brand empowering athletes across the world, built to enhance performance and give you confidence to go the extra mile. They've got some of the most incredible products at montrex.com. There is a link below this video. Click the link and at checkout, enter the code LEGIT for 15% off your order. That's LEGIT, all one word. Everything from jackets, cargo pants, gym tops, t-shirts, running jackets, running pants. Everything is on their website, and they sponsor some of the most incredible athletes. Everything from UFC fighter Leon Edwards and a good friend of the podcast, boxer Jazza Dickens. So click the link below, use the code LEGIT at checkout for 15% off your order.
So welcome to the Legged podcast. It's myself, Andy Grant, and this week I've got a substitute in. I've got Jockey, who is going to help lead the way because I guess
not leading, I'll be following
then. And we've got Alan McGee.
Hey, Matt.
Thanks so much for being here. Before we kick off, we've got a few sponsors. We've got Montrex. Montrex up, you get 15% off if you type in Legged. And we've also teamed up with Ver. Type in Legged 20 for 20% off. So make sure you check them out. I suppose we'll have to give Jockey's Transalpino a mention, won't we? Why haven't you started sponsoring the pod, lad? Fucking tight ass.
You've gone corporate.
Tight ass. Mate, massive thanks, Alan, for being here, mate. Really appreciate it.
Told me about you 2 or 3 years ago, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kept me waiting.
No, well, COVID kept you waiting.
Yeah. How have you been with all COVID and all that?
I had it in January 20, but I've been alright, yeah. I mean, I've actually got on well in the lockdown. I walked 15 miles a day. When I realised you don't actually get arrested for going out of the house, do you remember all that?
Yeah.
I started walking 15 miles a day, and then I kind of realised after about 6 weeks I lost about 10 pounds, and I was like, oh, this works, and I've now lost 52 pounds, you know what I mean?
Wow. Since the start of lockdown?
Yeah. But when he met me, but we get mutual friends, the farm and all that, but I was a big guy, do you know what I mean? And now I'm not a big guy.
Fair play to you, mate.
Yeah.
Lockdown was great for me in that respect. I never had I done bevy in the house, so that first lockdown I never had a bevy for 14 weeks. It was great. And then where are we up to now? We've had about 3 lockdowns. After that third lockdown, I just wanted to get out and enjoy myself, run out of time. I mean, run out of time now. I'm out Saturday. COVID passports kick in on the Monday, so that's like one last big night out before it all
crazy
gets
again.
moody again. Yeah.
Well, mate, obviously, you know what? Jockey put me on today, a documentary last night, which is brilliant, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Really, really amazing. It's available on Sky, isn't it?
It's
Sky
on now, and I was saying that it came out. It came out during the lockdown in March. And that was an upside and a downside. A lot of people watched it because they were all stuck in the house, but I think it would have been better if we managed to get it to theatres and stuff. Do you know what I mean? You know. So.
I think as well. I mean, I don't think of Sky anymore as documentaries. You think of Netflix, don't you? Yeah. So I think maybe because it's on Sky, I wasn't aware of it, but I'll be telling everyone about it now, mate. I thought it was genuinely made really well put together.
Yeah.
And what I also liked about it is, I don't want to be disrespectful when I say this, but I've grown up kind of knowing who Alan McGee is, but I've always associated you so much with the Oasis. It's just Alan McGee Oasis, and I think the documentary is just about your life, which is arguably more, it just as if not more interesting. I thought, which I thought that was. I don't know about you. I always thought Alan McGee Oasis, and that documentary just sheds a light on everything, doesn't it? Yeah,
he's always described as the Oasis Supremo, or the man who discovers Oasis, but it's like a docu-drama, wasn't it? It takes you right back, doesn't it? So you may as well start right back. I mean, where you are today and what you've gone through, and, you know, very successful in your own right. But do you look back and think of your younger days when you was a bit of a grafter, a bit of a hustler, a bit of a barra boy? Do you think that's set you in good stead for the music industry you were going into? Because it's full of a lot of... wheelers
and dealers and that kind of thing.
To say the least,
I think it's a good question, Jockey. I think ultimately I've got a barra boy mentality, and I mean this sounds such an unreal conversation for like a podcast with you to go into it, but I'll semi go into it because I was a barra boy at a certain point in the 90s. There was millions. I took the millions, but there was actually in the context of where music went when people are selling their rights.
Do you mean when you say you took the millions, you talk about Sony now?
Yeah. So I took like 14 fucking million off or something at one point, right? Which is fucking great money, right? If I'd hung on, that money would have been, I don't know what to do. Because people are selling the rights now for astronomical 17 times the value of what it is. That's people are selling publishing catalogues at multiples of 17 and shit like that. Which I don't know if ND really can follow that much, but it just means that things are really overpriced.
Yeah.
And if I had been, because I'm a barra boy, I was like 33, and somebody comes up to you want a load of money, and of course it's like a fucking pills when you take it.
Of course, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it did set me up, so it was brilliant, right? But the real money in it now, as if you had the 90s, the 80s and 90s rights, and then you sell it now, then get about 150 or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So, but it is what it is, and you've got to live with who you are, because I'm not educated. I've got 1 O level. So
in arithmetic.
Yeah, good when you get.
So you mightn't be a damn academic, but you can count money.
Yeah. And that's what happened. Do you know what I mean? Because and so I was in that. I mean, people go. I mean, we were talking there about property, and I put all that money into property. I've got a load of property and all that stuff, and property jumped as well, which was brilliant. But at the end of the day, I was kind of hung by my own lack of education ultimately, because the people I'm up against are economists. Do you know what I mean? In the music business, the guy that runs Rough Trade, like went to Cambridge. The guy that went, runs XL. He's an economist. Went to I think Oxford. Blah blah blah. I was brought up in Govan Hill, and I've got 1 O level, mate. Do you know what I mean? So it's a bit like, So you through lack of education, you just kind of go. Sometimes when people go, "Do you want this?" You take it. Do you know what I mean?
That's the corporate world, but your street smartness had to get you there in the first place. So you had to be streetwise to get there.
Is the bitterness there? Is there Alan? Is there regret?
No, I'm not better. Ultimately, you can't be better because I've never done a day's work in my life since I've been 21. Do you know what I mean?
Come on, of course you have. Okay, you're having.
These hands are smooth. It's like, but in reality, I'm just being a cunt there. But it's like but no, I mean, I've done music since I've been 21, 22. When I went to London, and like when I went to London when I was 21, I never thought it would work out. I went to London thinking, I'll be back in a month.
Was you running away?
I think in the documentary it kind of looks a little bit.
Maybe, I ran away. I mean, our family was brutal, but I mean, all the families around that time were brutal. Noel Gallagher's family was brutal. Do you know what I mean? It's like he got battered by the dad badly, and I did as well. So I suspect that was just what the 70s were really like for northern families. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like the Sex Pistols, that shit. You went from glam rock into punk, and then you've landed in London, and punk disappeared. Like because you were from the regions, sort of thing. Glasgow's just a small city.
Because it was different back then, guys. It was like now, because of YouTube and everything, whatever happens in London,
it's instant.
Happens in the next day in Glasgow, basically. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Back in 1976. What happened in London in 1976 hit Glasgow in 1977. It took 9 months to a year to filter back up the road. Do you know what I mean?
And punk only lasted about 18 months anyway, didn't it? And then it filtered out into New Wave and all these bands. So
did you feel like that, Jock, with your situation in Liverpool and stuff, that if you wanted to kind of, be ahead of the game, London, you had to go? I know not
at all. We were just discussing this before about someone who Alan knows, who's not from Liverpool. He's actually from Manchester. He's a big mank, and he says Liverpool's probably the only last city left with an identity, really.
That's Sean. I mean, I manage him with Sean Ryder.
Yeah.
And Sean Ryder was saying to me about a month ago, said something. We were having a discussion about Manchester and property. I mean, the thing that people don't get with Sean Ryder is he's really astute guy, and and they just think he's this mad, caner, but he's a totally astute business mind. And he was like, we're talking about property, and he goes, Liverpool. He goes, Liverpool's is probably going to end up being the lead city. I was like, how is Liverpool going to end up? Because it's the only one that it's not the same. Because me and him, we do all these talking things. I was there last night at the Cavern, and we're doing the chat thing, and he's right. I mean, Liverpool actually has its own identity. That I'd argue London, Manchester, Glasgow, it's kind of now the same homogenised identity.
It's been swallowed up, yeah.
Maybe different accents, but at the end of the day, we're all kind of vaguely the same. You come to Liverpool and it's like, don't get caught with a copy of The Sun. Do you know what I mean? They'll not talk to you again. It's all that. It's completely got its own thing. Do you know what I mean?
So the answer to your question was, no, you didn't have to get off. We're a bit different in Liverpool. Very insular, but always looking out, maybe because we're a seaport. So we did get out on trains, planes. We did get out and discover the world. So
wasn't this law of that you had to be in London, though?
No, but we always come home as well. We always come. Well, not all of us, but me personally. So home is where the heart is. But
it's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, we had to leave in the 80s because there was nothing here. If you wanted to take the world by its horns, sort of thing, you had to get off. But not just London, just anywhere. I mean, a scouse got in touch with me the other day who's been in LA for 40 years. He was a butler to the likes of not Tom Hanks and that, but he took Tom Hanks to court. He was a butler in LA, and so there's people
to get out and about.
Yeah, getting out and about.
Did you go back home much? Did you?
I used to go back tons, but because I'm a bit older than you, I'm 61, right, and you couldn't do it in 1980 for Glasgow. You couldn't do it. Do you know what I mean? You had to go to London. I think that changed right after that. By the mid 80s, you could be Simple Minds and stay in Glasgow. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? But I think when we went down, definitely in the music game, you couldn't do it for Glasgow. There was no music business. Do you know what I mean?
Was that disheartening, was it, or did you just think, fuck it, I'm going to go and make it anyway then?
I mean, I didn't really. My thing was it was make it up as you go along. Really, honestly, it was like 1980. We went down. I thought, I'm never going to get on well with London. A month into it, I was like, this is incredible. I love it. Right, I'm staying. And we and I'd got into a squat. 6 months later, I'd started a club. That was a living room. We started putting bands on. I started making. I was like 21 or something by this point, maybe, and I started making £700-800 a week. Out of just putting little bands on. And then for the money for that, I started putting out the Mary Chain and Primal Scream records and blah blah blah. So it was like do you know what I mean? I'd made some money out of that, and then I had like 2 or 3 months of getting caned, and then I was like, wait a minute, put the money into that, just do something actually good with it. And then eventually one of them blew up with Mary Chain, and then that was the beginning of like, me learning.
Is this the same period where you discovered drugs, or has that started?
Just a bit after it. I used to take the odd bit of drugs, right? If somebody would cut a line out, I would do it, but I'd never bought it. Do you know what I mean? Because I was young. You don't really, when you're 21, 22, you don't really buy the drugs. You get given the drugs half the time. Do you know what I mean? And then I suppose at the time that changed, Jockey, was when I started to break the Mary Chain. We started doing like 3,000-4,000 tickets a night in America on the coast and blah blah blah. I was like 22, 23, and I'm managing this pretty big band. And then on that tour, the coke starts coming out, and then it became a good idea to start buying the coke.
Yeah.
And that was, before you knew it, that was what we were all doing.
The bit in the movie where I think is it Joe Foster
Yeah.
Is it him who has the line of the pink speed?
Oh yeah.
That was from Liverpool. That was called Prescott Pink. It was made in Liverpool in Prescott, and it was about 1985. It got raided. So, and that the bit you're talking about is about 85, 86, and they busted the lab in Prescott. It was Pink Speed, and it was known as Prescott Pink. Anyone who's of a certain age will remember it.
Yeah, he used to. What's the word for it? He used to access us a little bit of that, right? You know, and this was like early 90s, and he nearly killed us all because basically he got us this. It was like nuclear speed. We all done it, and people were like having like fits in shops with their wives at 10 in the morning.
Fucking hell.
That was Johnny's speed.
Does it get to a point then when you're doing all this where it's kind of like becomes normal just because everyone's doing it?
Yeah, in that context, yeah. I mean,
it's not frowned upon anymore.
No older men. See now, when I'm managing young bands and stuff like that, you know, men and women. I've got some women I manage, you know, girls. But you can say, "Oh, stop doing the coke because you're having the panic attacks," or blah blah blah. You can, but there was nobody in our life. That was the weird thing with me and the Primals and the Mary Chain. There was nobody in our lives
to guide you.
Older.
To guide you. Yeah.
So we were just all bananas, and like we were just, you know, there was nobody going, "You're supposed to be in charge." Reverse. You know what I mean? And you know,
if there was though, would you have listened to them?
Well, you probably ultimately do, because you think you're not, but you eventually have. Everybody becomes self-aware, don't they? And they're like, maybe they're right. Do you know what I mean?
And these bands as well, you talk about Primal, I mean, did they know themselves that they were going to be big, or was there a kind of feeling amongst you all that we're onto something here?
They probably did. I mean, I wanted to make some money so that I didn't have to be poor anymore, do you know what I mean? Because that's what I'd come out of, do you know what I mean? So I lived in a squat, I had a job at the railway, I was skint basically, and you know, so I probably was, you know, it wasn't that romantic. I just wanted some money so that I didn't need to really think too much of anything. Do you know what I mean? They actually probably did think we're going to be the Rolling Stones. Do you know what I mean? Which they never became, but you know, they became a pretty big band. You know, but they probably in their heads thought that they're going to become a massive band. You know.
And was it ever egotistical for you to think, you know, I want these to be big because I want to go back to Scotland and show that my dad that I'm not a fuck up and I've made it, you
Maybe a little bit, but not very much. You grow out of that eventually, do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, there was in the beginning I was loving all that, do you know what I mean? Like, you know, gold records and, do you know what I mean? All that nonsense. And then eventually you just go, do you know what? None of that's, it's unimportant at the end of the day, you know what I mean? I had about 70 or 80 gold and silver records, and then my son, you know, who's had a troubled past with drugs and all that sort of nonsense, right? You know, like, took them to the reason that all the Alan McGee gold and silver and platinum records are all out there is my son sold them for crack years ago.
Fucking hell.
So there you go. So you know, and then I go to gigs like in the valleys in Wales, and like, you know, and we get mutual friends there, me and Jockey, and I'll be there, and some wee guy will go, "Ow, can you sign?" What is it? Oh, it's Platinum Wonderwall. All right, okay, you know, and I'll sign it. I was, how much did you buy this for? He'll go, 400. And I know Dan, my kid, has sold them for 50 for crack. He sold all of them for like 50 quid for a bit of crack.
It's madness, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's just what it is, isn't it? It's just families, what can you do?
Yeah, fucking hell, families, you could talk all day about families, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Going into from Primal and Jesus, also in the movie, I'll revert back to the movie again, the bit where you discovered Acid House, it was a bit different than when I discovered Acid House, because you discovered it with a business head on. You seen straight away that it had. When I discovered Acid House,
what was your thinking, Jockey?
I got in the last 3 months or something. I remember I ended up in Cheapside once, locked up, and some lad was expecting 3 years, or no, he was expecting a couple of years. He went, by the time this is 1989, he said, by the time I get out in a couple of years' time, all them raves will be finished. 30 odd years later, it's still going strong. So, but you can see that you discovered it with a business head on.
And you're making me sound intelligent. I tell you the real truth, right? I got into it. I got into ecstasy in Brighton and beginning at 87, like, you know, but listening to Nick Drake and Tim Buckley, not putting the music together. Then I was chasing a girl, early 88, Debbie Turner in Manchester. She took me to a New Order Happy Mondays thing, and I underneath the hacienda, the lights came on and I was necking the E's and clocked Debbie dancing, and I was like, oh god, that acid house music, now I get why it's good. So I then got into it, and then I was going to the clubs for about a year and just having it brilliantly, you know, it was just a great time. And then we wanted a record at the clubs that we could all go, this is us, this is our record. So, and the Mondays had got Hallelujah together with Andy Weatherall, so we copied them and got, you know, not quite as cynical as that, but basically that was the move. And we got them to do I'm Losing More Than I'll Ever Have, which became Loaded. We didn't know, honestly, the joke about Loaded is that we did it, and it was going to be the extra track on a 12-inch of I'm Losing More Than I'll Ever Have. Primal Scream at this point they were almost breaking up. They put 2 albums out, nobody gave a fuck, right, about this band, right? So this was the extra track on a 12 inches. We put it out into clubs early December 1990. We came over Christmas, it was getting played in all the clubs. We came back and you used to get the club reports, and it was like, this is a hit. I continued to ignore the club reports for another 3 weeks until it was like the biggest acid house record in Britain that January, and our club record, and at that point I flipped it and said that'll be the A-side, and we made that the A-side, and the other 2 tracks, the extra tracks, it blew up. We immediately sold 100,000 records, and that was the beginning of the Primal Scream acid house thing, you know. So it was, and at that point, what I did realise, Jockey, at that point, all the experience I'd had with the Mary Chain, the Valentines, the House of Love, all these bands that I did really well with, right? I knew how to do it, and there wasn't that many people that interested in the acid house thing at that point. So
yeah,
you know, I blew it up with the Scream. It was, got loads of remixes by all the other bands. It
was an underground movement at first. I like the bit where you have been out all night, you go into the cafe.
Oh, that's true.
And yeah, I know it is, because I'm going to say you might take on it, and you're in the cafe and the girl's saying, what's that tune you're playing? And the fella behind the counter, a big greasy fella, says, that's the fucking dishwasher. And she was just getting the beat. What's the beat? Oh, the bass line's great on it. But it happened with us. We'd been out all night, and as you know, back then there was no venues to go to. You had to go and find somewhere. We ended up in Breck Road in a pub called The Peel on a Sunday. Breck Road in Liverpool, yeah.
The Libertines got a song called Breck Road.
Yeah. So we ended up in The Peel, just a little old man's boozer, on a Sunday morning about 9 o'clock, and we're all in there, 9 o'clock, we're on the tables, all dancing on tables, and the cleaners come in, these little old women in the 60s or something, and the cleaners come in, they've got the mops and they're get down, and we're just fucking, and you were dancing to the likes of Deacon Blue and In Excess and all that. There was a bit of Chicago House, but it wasn't on the jukebox in the Peel on Breck Road. In the States, you get a bit of Chicago House, but you were dancing to In Excess and Deacon Blue and Nana Cherry. You know what I mean? I'm going back to '88. Like,
did you get satisfaction, Alan, knowing that? I mean, was it for you just about the money and look, I'm successful, or did you get satisfaction knowing that there was this movement going on?
I'm just a music fan. Do you know what I mean? The money and the success, you know, it's been great fun, and don't get me wrong, I'm glad I had some of that at different points, but it's always just been, music's my life. Do you know what I mean? I think when I'm 75, I'll still be managing bands. Do you know what I mean? You know, so
must be some feeling though, just to think that there's fellas like Jockey who still maybe sit around now and talk about those days, to think that you kind of created that. That's a mad feeling.
I'm part of that. I'm facilitated it. You know what I mean? But you're only as good as the bands that you have. Do you know what I mean? And I've had some good bands.
Moving on then, mate, as well. So you're getting real success and stuff. The story, I've heard two sides of the story, one from the documentary and then one that was told differently. I think in the documentary it's like you missed your train, and then I've heard the other story where you went up to see, was it Debbie?
Yeah,
you said.
yeah, that's the true story.
So you did missed the train and ended up having to stay up there, or
I never. There was no train involved.
was there no train?
No.
I think in the documentary there's the train, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he stays up.
Irvin.
Yeah. It's a bit of creative.
Dramatising.
Yeah.
When we got Irvin to do it, because it really very nearly didn't get made, because what happened was that he liked it, took it on, and then then they got money, and then it stalled for 4 or 5 years.
Really?
And then it and then there was like different people were all ready to go, but it was just lacking in money, and it was like they offered me Ewan McGregor to play me, right? And I started laughing, going, I look as if I'm Scottish, he looks as if he's Swedish, do you know what I mean? You know? So it's like, and then they went, what about Spud? And I went, that'll work. Do you know what I mean?
Was Robert Carlyle mentioned?
No.
I think last time I spoke to you, it hadn't been made, the film last time we met.
Yeah.
Spud plays brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. What's his name?
Ewan Bremner. He's great.
Right, okay.
He plays me brilliantly. And then they got Danny Boyle. And Danny, to be his credit, the minute Danny's name got put to it, somebody fucking put 2 or 3 million into the film and that it got made, do you know what I mean?
Sorry for butting in, was you on set for a lot of the time?
Yeah, but six or 7 times.
Is that all, yeah? Because it seems like it really had your stamp all over it.
Yeah, I kept away from it just about, because I thought I could be really pedantic and go, that didn't happen, because half of it is just Irvin kind of jangling it. I mean, but the main parts, as you know, are like, yeah, I did sign Oasis, I did go to London, do you know what I mean? I did become a drug addict. I mean, all that stuff happened, but a lot of it is him just going, this is a bit more interesting if you say you missed a train, rather than
you're
just trying to go and get shagged. So it's like, it's what it is.
So when you did go up to Scotland, and obviously the founding of Oasis, I mean, that in itself is a mad story, how you'd end up almost having to kind of be the peacekeeper and kind of stop a fight almost, because they're trying to kind of...
Well, they just intimidated the security, because there was 12 of them into playing, do you know what I mean?
What was that, just no leaving the band and just a few of the mates and said...
I think it was more like their mates, they were just, it was like 12 Manx Scallies kind of bullying 2 wee Glasgow bouncers into like, we're going to play, and it was easier to let them play. So the bouncers were like, because I had the other 2 bands on, and the other band, they were like, is it cool? And I went, oh, whatever, just let them have.
Noel had a bit of experience though, he was a roadie, wasn't he?
Yeah.
With
Spirals.
The Spirals, yes, so he knew sort of the business from that
what Noel's good at, Jockey, is that Noel knew what it's like to be in a pretty successful band. He was the main roadie for that band, and he watched the journey. Yeah. So he kind of knew the pit stops, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's just working the head, isn't he?
I know people who know the Gallaghers, and they said, like, in school, Liam was a bit of an hard case. Liam could have a scrap, like.
Yeah.
And what was do you remember that night well? I mean...
Yeah, pretty well.
What was there a song, or was it just the whole set? I
was talking about this at the Cavern last night when I was doing that Q&A. I was like, it was pretty boring why I done it. Right? I mean, it sounds mad, but it wasn't Liam. Liam was just pretty reserved, you know what I mean, and just like stood and done his thing. Was he doing the Liam thing? I don't even think he was doing the Liam thing. He just stood. He was like in his own bubble and did it. He sang great. He looked great. Liam was phenomenal. He looked great, but it was Noel's guitar playing and the songs and the tightness of the band, and I thought that can work. We can do well with that. I didn't think, we're going to sell 70 million records. I never thought that.
Did you ever dream that? Like growing up or getting into the business thinking I could have the next Stones?
Yeah,
but it was just a dream.
Yeah, but you don't think. Do you know what I mean? I suppose at that point, Jockey, I was 33-year-old. I was out was it even 33? I was 32. And I was out every night, because I was always out for seeing every band, but mainly after women, and taking drugs. I was out. You know what I mean? I was out every night.
Where did it all go wrong, eh?
Are you still there? Because I know we spoke with jockeys.
When you get old, you can't behave like that when you're old. Do you know what I mean?
You can try.
Yeah. We spoke with you, Jock. I know your story and stuff, and we speak about like functioning people who were taking drugs but can function okay and stuff. I mean, was you're on it every night, you know, you're shagging drugs.
For a while. I mean, I was alright then, just about. But you get a bit. I mean, a year and a half later, I was like, I stopped it. Do you know what I mean? And then I was sober for the rest of the 90s. And then it got to about 2000, and I started a club, Death Disco, that I was drinking behind everybody's back. So I was the DJ, but like, you know, the people at the bar knew me really well, and they were like putting Jack Daniels in. So for about 10 years, I was
secret lemonade drinker. I'm fascinated about what went on in LA.
Oh, yeah.
So you've discovered Oasis.
Yeah.
You've signed them.
Yeah.
You've got them, you know, they're up and running, and then you've headed off to LA, and then you've just gone absolutely bananas, haven't you?
But I was going bananas anyway.
Yeah.
I was out fucking having it all the time, and but yeah, I mean, eventually, look, that was just, I went to, I mean, basically, that, what really happened is I did a massive, like, I mean, literally, a massive line of nuclear cocaine, right? Then went and got on a plane, right? With no value, so it was like wired, and then got to the hotel and then party for another 2 or 3 days, and eventually ended up like, you know, in Cedar Sinai with loads of wires, you know, like, you know, keep me alive for a bit, and then, you know, I mean, and then I came back, and then I just stopped. I kind of had a moment of realisation. I think if you're intelligent, which I'm vaguely intelligent, but I think it's like you have a self-awareness moment. I mean, the people that seem to really, this would be an interesting conversation with me and you, the people that get really caught in addiction, I believe, aren't the smartest people. Do you know what I mean? I think if you've got a modicum of self-awareness, you kind of go at a certain point.
Yeah, it was,
and you reverse.
It was the same for me when I was an addict. I was always ashamed of it.
Yeah. And
I always knew if I got the chance, I'd get off it. I did think I was intelligent enough to get off it, but you're also brain dead while you're on it, and you're weak as well. I mean, the most selfish person in the world is a drug addict.
Yeah.
And luckily for me, I was arrested and spent a bit of time in prison, and had time to look at 4 walls and reevaluate.
So was that your moment, Jock, where you went?
Right, my moment was in a prison cell in Nuremberg when I looked in the mirror and just had a word with. Honestly, it sounds cliche or corny, but I had a word with myself and said, "Fucking, this is it." I didn't have a friend in the world. I'd alienated everyone.
Yeah.
Not that they didn't want to be friends with me, but you know, people, you get invited to weddings, you wouldn't go. You get christenings, there'd be funerals, you miss it. In the end, people just say, "Fuck you," then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's at that point when you've got nothing except your own intelligence or your own fight. And again, I was young. I was 28, 29, so I was still young. Spent the whole of my 20s on Class A drugs.
Yeah.
You look back, any regrets? No, you had a fucking great time, but yeah, of course you've got regrets. But it makes you what you is today.
That's one question I was going to ask you both actually, but I may as well ask you now, because it seems like kind of I'm looking for a great answer off you, but when you're speaking to a drug addict or someone who's been through the mill, it's almost quite harsh to say, you know, but did you have a good time though? Do you know what I mean? And it's like,
time, but you know what?
Because I don't want to glorify the drugs, but at the same time, it's like, you know, you've done it for such a large portion of your life. You know, was it good at the time? You know,
it was good when it was good. But like he said, I had a moment as well, and I remember it was like, I just remember going, if I get through this, because I thought I was going to die a couple of times. I was like, if I get through this, I am going to change, and you know, and I did get my head round it, and I did, you know, because getting clean and sober, it's kind of weird, right? Because the way I do it, I don't do the NA thing or the AA thing.
Me neither, no.
I have to say, you know, with me, you know, I'm prepared to be the most boring fucking person in the room, in any situation. If people want to call me boring, that's okay. And once I go with that context and that concept, I'm alright. You know, because I just go, well, I'm just, I think I've got more selfish as I got older because I don't please anybody anymore. I'm me, that's it. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. Do you know what I mean? And so, but sometimes it's interesting because I'm 61 now. I remember I went to see a band, a big band, the other week, and I won't go naming anybody, and there was like a kind of big publisher who's a bit an alcoholic, right? And he was like, how's that working out for you, the drink? And I just thought, what I'm sober and you're like, you look shit and you're like, you're fucking alky, mate, if you're trying to give me a hard time about booze. And I just thought, do you know what? It's probably where I am, it's good, do you know what I mean? So I think you've just got to be prepared to take stuff like that from time to time, people laughing at you because you go, whatever, mate, I don't care.
I just find it so fascinating to kind of almost go cold turkey. I know you still have a bevy, Jock. I know you don't anymore, Alan. We had Tubes off Soccer AM, and he's was an alcoholic, stopped. The thing I found really fascinating with everyone is, yeah, it's okay to maybe go cold turkey, don't do it no more, but then to stay in those surroundings, I think that must be so difficult. I mean, you're still going the match, you're still hanging around with these people and stuff. Yeah,
but I'm going the match with people who are like, it's only a pint. Heroin, I was on heroin. It doesn't relate to alcohol, heroin. They don't go hand in hand. They're not related.
So you think it was a bit easier then to step away from that?
Coming off smack, where you haven't got a social life, your social life is stuck in a crack den or a smack den, mixing with, and I don't want to be disrespectful for anyone because there was one myself, you're mixing with low life. So I was a low life, and to move out of that, then you're mixing with people who've got a bit about them. So you go to match, you're mixing with proper people then, decent if you people, like. Yeah. Cocaine goes hand in hand. We discussed this before. Cocaine goes hand in hand with alcohol. So if you go out and have a pint, next thing you feel cocaine's not being my thing. I was on crack years ago, but cocaine, you want a line and then that's it. You're on the road to destruction again, aren't you?
That's obviously then different for you then, because in that industry it is, booze and drugs.
I'm done with it, but I mean, I've got a wee band of gulps that I'm managing, and they're like in their 20s, they're fucking crazy, you know what I mean? And occasionally I've like hang on to the table a little bit because it's all going on around you, but that's just bands. It's like, that's, I mean, it does not seem like a good idea to have a line or have a pint now. It just doesn't.
But yeah, to me, that's like, I couldn't do that. I mean, I've had willpower in the past, but that kind of willpower, you've gone to LA, you've come back, you've gone to rehab, you've come out of rehab, you've got to get into a mental state where we're Oasis, who are that's quickly becoming one of the biggest bands in the world, and they're round the twist, and you're just standing there watching them doing this, that and the other, and not getting involved. I think the willpower for that.
I remember there was one time I was like, because I'm friends with Joaquin Phoenix, right, the actor. I was round Joaquin's with two of the Libertines. This is in, it'd become Dirty Pretty Things by that point, and it was about 2007, and I was in his house about 4 a.m, and I was like, he goes, do you want anything? I went, just a Diet Coke. And he started banging the table going, you fucking motherfucker, you're the craziest motherfucker in the room. And I was like, really? I don't think I am. I mean, so I suppose it's just, I think you've just got to hive yourself off, do you know what I mean?
Is there a bit of when, I've watched obviously Supersonic, the documentary they done, and you see kind of, there's that famous one where they're in, I think it is LA, and they've got it just fucks up, they've all took ketamine or something on stage, and they're singing the songs wrong, Crystal meth was it, they're all fucked up on it. And is there a point where you're trying to, do you ever get involved and say, lads, fucking honestly, or do you just say, look, I've done it, I can't?
If somebody asks me my opinion, I will honestly answer. Do you know what I mean? My little band of gulps, like, if from time to time they have their panic attacks, I just go, it's dead simple, stop taking fucking cocaine. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's not that you've got a neurological disease, you just do too much coke, stop it.
Yeah. But you're someone, you're just an old,
I know.
Yeah, they think, what the fuck do you know? They don't know, they didn't see your journey.
Well, they kind of don't think that. I think they think he knows, but I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Like when the Oasis thing does go, for about 9 months of it, you're still kind of taking drugs and stuff, but then about 9 months into signing Oasis. Yeah. With that as well, am I right in thinking that you'd sold half the company to Sony prior to?
Yeah.
I was wondering, is there a bit of you that thinks you'd held out? before you had Oasis?
I wish I had, but you know what? We'd started with no seed money, and so we were always behind. Do you know what I mean? You know, so we needed Sony's money to be able to do it, to work it properly. But yeah, you know what I mean. It's about what we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast. Was the remuneration correct for what we brought them? I don't think it was. You know?
And Oasis,
but it was alright. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, if you consider starting on a Glasgow council estate and ending up, you know, not in a Glasgow council estate, and you know, got a lot of stuff going on, and then it's you just got to go. It is what it is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Were Oasis, when they were kind of in the heyday, were they could give you a run for your money when you were in your heyday? Were they worse? Were they a bit tamer?
Noel's pretty good at it.
The 2 concerts back then, Barrowlands, was you at that one?
I tell
Oasis?
You, so you're like, it's I remember the first time, so we're sitting, this is when I was still, first 9 months I was caning it, they were caning it, then I stopped, went to Los Angeles, came back, got myself together, but I remember he played me rocking chair. He's round my flat at 7 in the morning, right, and he's sitting in my beanbag off his nut, right, like, but he was together, because he can really fucking handle the drugs, no, right, I think we were both on 4 or 5 each, right, and he's playing me rocking chair, and then, you know, and I'd went to sleep, right, so he's playing me his fucking great new tune, rocking chair, and I'd went to sleep. So I was like that, and he goes, "What do you think?" And I went, and he goes, "You fucking slept." And he walked out the room right home. He was playing me his big song, and like I'd fucking slept through the record company guy playing it.
The amount of people who would love Noel to lie there and just...
I know.
Serenade you to sleep. But Nebworth was 96.
Yeah.
I remember you telling me a great story of the security. The security was that good that you couldn't get into the VIP party.
Yeah. They're better stories, Jockey, but probably not for this podcast. Okay. When you're trying to be back to station, I'll tell you one. You'll be laughing.
Just on Oasis, well, because we move on, because again, I'll say again, the documentary is definitely worth watching. It's about everything. But on the Oasis...
It's called Creation Stories.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
On that, though, on the Oasis thing, one, did you ever... Well, what I will say, firstly, foremost, I think the numbers that they've done in an age where there's no social media, I think you can't really get your head around it.
Yeah.
It's like, I always link things back to football, like Mo Salah at the moment, Liverpool's great. You look at Ian Rush, or Ian Rushton, I mean, you think Salah would have to be at the level he's at now for the next, 10 years to emulate Rush, and it's a bit like how Oasis were, to think what they've done in an age where, you know, people are having to go to the shops and buy the records, and it's madness, so unbelievable. One, did you ever think it would be that big? And two, do you think if you'd found Oasis, for example, now, do you think it would ever be as big now with the way the world is?
No, I don't. I think...
Or was it like a perfect storm?
I don't think Oasis could happen again. You know what I mean? You know, not in that way, because it was such a cultural moment of people like Jockey and me coming through Acid House, and then this band with big tunes, but coming for club culture, basically. No came for club culture, and that's kind of maybe why it happened. And I never thought it was. I mean, you dream that you're going to have a superstar band. Do you know what I mean? But you don't. Then when it starts happening, you're like, oh fuck, this is actually happening. This is happening. Fuck. Do you know what I mean? But you dream about it, but you don't really think it's going to fucking happen. I'd had some big bands. I'd had Primal Scream, Jesus and Mary Chain, House of Love, Ride, St Etienne, Sugar, the Boo Radleys, arguably. I had a lot of Teenage Fan Club. I'd had a lot of success, but I'd never had a superstar band. Do you know what I mean? This
might be a rude question to ask, asking I don't know which is your favourite kid, but which was your favourite band to manage?
Well, the best fun was Primal Scream, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know. I'd probably Primal Scream, because it was just a great fucking. It was my school friends that and I was the least talented musical member of it, of the little posse. So I became the manager and the record company guy, and they became the musicians. And, do you know what I mean? So when they got big, and I was with them, I've had them 17 years, but I was a manager up to about 93 or something like that. and I did the records and the publishing for 17 years. Yeah, probably the Primals.
You're smashing it. It's the 90s. You're smashing it. It's the mid-90s.
Yeah.
You're doing everything right.
Yeah.
And become very influential in the music business. So then you move into politics, don't you?
By mistake. No,
By mistake.
No.
Well, I asked you this before on our way over here. Do you regret it, or
No,
do you reckon you did actually get a Labour government in, or helped?
I think did I get Labour in? No, I don't think I
influence.
But I think we maybe made it trendy to vote Labour, which was incredible. It was probably the last time it was fashionable to be working class. Because now it's fashionable to be like rich kids at Instagram, isn't it? We're living in this Instagram culture where it's like if you're in a private jet, you're cool. But I mean, any cunt can be in a private jet because your dad might own fucking, your dad might be Philip Green. Do you know what I mean? Basically, you know what I mean. So does that mean you're cool? That just means you're part of the lucky sperm club. Do you know what I mean? but at the end of the day, it was like I'd got sober 94, 95. I joined the Labour Party. I was always Labour, but I joined the Labour Party at this point. And then when I was at Nebworth, I'll tell you who it is, you'll love this, Jockey, right? It was two guys. And it was like at the end of the night and the second night, and they were outside the VIP. They looked like fucking... like sex cases to me, guys. They were like looking at me and and they went, "Are you the Alan McGee of the Labour Party?" And I went, "I am." One of them was called Derek, the other one, I can't remember his name. Do you know who Derek was? Do you know the guy, Kate Garraby's husband, who's been in the coma?
Oh yeah.
That's who it is.
Oh right.
This was in his previous life.
And who were these? These from the Labour Party?
He was working Gordon Brown's press assistant at the time.
Ah, right. My cousin was working for Gordon Brown back then as well.
Yeah. So I think he worked for Gordon Brown or Peter Manson. I can't remember what one, but I think it was Gordon Brown. Anyway, they went, "Oh, are you the Alan McGee guy?" I went, yeah. And I went, "You haven't given me my Labour card, but you've taken my £15, right?" Right. So anyway, the next Monday, or the next day, I think I got a phone call. Margaret McDonagh for the Labour Party, General Secretary of the Labour Party for Alan McGee. I better pick up. And she came on in, and then she gave me my card. I said, "Oh, you haven't given me my card." She said, "There you go." And she goes, "Will you help us?" And this was about 9 months before the election, maybe a year before the election. And I was, "What do you want to do?" And she went, "Get me Oasis for the Blackpool Youth Conference." And I was like, "When is it?" And this is Monday. And she was Saturday. And at this point, Oasis actually were the biggest group in the world. So
was that the Labour Party conference where you're on the stage?
Yeah.
And Liam, is it Liam who's off his banner or no?
Yeah.
I thought that was like a Brit Awards or something.
I did as well.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a Brit Award.
Oh, was it? Right, okay.
But this is how I got involved with them. So anyway, I goes, I'll find out. So I phoned Noel up and I went, "The Labour Party want you to turn up and like, I think I said to her, the band will never do it, maybe I'll ask Noel to do it acoustic." And he went, "I'm fucking knackered, I'm fucking blah blah blah, I'm not doing it." He goes, "Get him a platinum disc." So I went on up and gave Tony Blair this platinum disc. It said for Oasis and Creation Records, and gave him this disc, and that was the beginning of getting to know them. And then it was the usual old bollocks, like trying, they wanted money and all that nonsense. But at the end of the day, when they got in, it's like they started asking me in all these committees, and eventually I went, "Oh, do you know what? I'll go on a couple of committees." And I went on the culture one, and then I went on the music one, and they were trying to make me the head of the music thing, and I just knew that would be. I mean, it was bad enough that I'd got into like a government position.
Establishments,
for the music business, for the people that actually run it, they fucking hated it, right? But anyway, and we got this thing which was a new deal for musicians, and which meant that you could be a musician on benefits, and as long as you fucking turned up with a fucking bass guitar at the interview, you got benefits for 4 years. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, you had to go in and meet them every 3 months, but But that's what happened. So that's why I think at the end of the day, maybe my involvement in it was probably pretty good.
Andy asked before, he fast forward, would Oasis happen today?
Yeah.
Bring yourself forward 30 years or whatever it is. If it was today, would you have an involvement with this Labour setup?
No, I can't even vote for them at the moment. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you love Corbyn. I mean,
me? Oh no, not me. I don't vote Labour. I wouldn't describe myself as I'm anti-establishment.
All right.
So
they were probably very similar.
But people in Liverpool love Corbyn.
Yeah.
But Labour, Tories, to me, as we said before, people like us, we're always going to survive whatever's in place. But no, I'm more anti-establishment than pro anyone, if you like. I'm working class, obviously. And that's why I asked you the question about this current Labour setup. It's Tory light, isn't it?
But I couldn't. But I thought. I think Corbyn's was terrible in goal for Labour because you have to be competitive. You have to, it's like he reminded me of the fucking geography teacher at school that knew a little bit more than you did. Do you know what I mean? But you deep down, it was like nobody. He's just a fucking. He got in the way of Labour getting in, and I think Labour now are a million miles away. I mean, the Conservatives are terrible, but it's like people kind of like Boris at the end of the day. It's why it's kind of Teflon.
People are not even they're not even hiding themselves now, are they?
I've got to laugh at like what they do, and because it's like they don't even fuck, and it's like, so what?
It's like bad estate agents, the Tories. Do you know what I mean?
And as we discussed before on the way over, I don't think we'll see a Labour government in my lifetime if I live to 100.
No.
I think
that's what I'm a bit like you. I used to get slated for not liking Corbyn, and I was again, every Scouser loves him, and I just used to say, regardless of his policies, I said, and I know you shouldn't vote for someone or not vote for someone for this, but I just said he doesn't look like a leader. He doesn't fill me with that little fuzzy feeling of thinking, and I just
looks like the mental geography teacher.
But this Starmer's not a leader, is he?
No.
I think Labour's poor. The only one that I think's very good is the Manchester guy,
Andy Burnham. Yeah.
I think he's good. He might be able to. See, the thing is, I suppose somebody had a great conversation with somebody the other day about politics, and it's like when Labour are a bit left of the centre, they get in. But when they're Corbyn and it's actually left wing, they don't get in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can be as idealistically correct as you fucking want, right? If you ain't in power, you have no power, and that's it. Do you know what I mean? And with Blair and Brown, they worked it out that don't stand there. People liked them. They were intelligent people. They were in power for 13 years or something like that. You know what I mean?
I've got a good friend who's met Tony Blair a few times. He's in business, and he's been for dinner with Tony Blair. He said he's the most charming man he's ever met.
I know him. I still know him. He is charming. Yeah. But don't mention the war. You know that Monty Python thing? Don't mention the war. Don't mention the war.
Yeah. Really, yeah. Yeah, my friend...
He is very intelligent.
Yeah, my friend said he sat next to him at a dinner party. My friend, he's a very intelligent guy himself. He's a bit of a schmoozer himself. He said he would have signed his house over to Tony Blair at the end of dinner. Yeah. He said, he had me eating off the palm of his hand.
Yeah.
And going straight back to what he got involved in, mapped out your life. Yeah. Mapped out your life, didn't it?
I'd done both Iraq and Afghanistan, and I don't class myself as very political now, but it does infuriate me now, though, especially the Afghan thing, especially. I've just what a shit show both of them were. It's... I don't get sad and angry about it because my life's actually turned out all right. Yeah. But it's when I think back to the devastation it was caused and stuff, and then you go into the kind of why it happened and stuff. It does proper frustrate me now.
Yeah.
And I can understand why he doesn't like talking about it.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's interesting doing your podcast then. You know what I mean? With you with that whole, you actually being on the ground and in Harmony and stuff. But he's a very, very. I mean, if you take, it's almost impossible to do it. But if you take that out and put that there, the Iraq thing, he was great for everything else. Do you know what I mean? But you know what? It just being America's lapdog and just rubber stamping it.
At what point then did you start kind of falling out of love with politics or Labour and stuff? At what point? Because in the movie, again, I keep on going back to it.
I tell you when I felt like when I put Malcolm McLaren up for the Mayor of London, and they got really pissed with me around that time. Do you know what I mean? And I thought, do you know what? Fuck you. Like, I'll do what I want. So it's probably coming to what you're talking about, the anti-establishment thing.
Yeah.
Because I put him up for Mayor of London, and he was polling 6% of the vote and all that. You know what I mean? It's great.
In our area in Kirkdale, we've just recently had a by-election.
Yeah.
And Kirkdale, it's often being voted politically and socially one of the most, socially one of the most deprived areas in Western Europe. So it's a strong seat and has been for a long time. But the people there now are so sick of Labour that we put our own candidate out, Peter Firmage, as an independent. Yeah. And Peter and my missus, the Labour Party members, Labour through and through, but they've had enough and we put an independent out. He never got in, but we were hoping to make
traction,
to make a traction and make the Labour Party stand up and maybe go for the people, but it never worked. But it's early days, you know what I mean. But again, as I say, Labour's finished, isn't it? I think
on the movie, mate, it's that scene with Jimmy Savile. Where you meet Jimmy and then you're just like, fuck this, what's going on?
But you know what though? It's like everyone's got it that I knew that Jimmy Savile was a paedophile and I was like, he's a cunt. I didn't know. That's just everyone again, right? It's like when I went to Chequers, I'll tell you the whole story of that one. It's kind of a funny story, right? So Cherie Blair liked me, right? So she wanted me and Paul Smith, you know, the clothes guy. This is about 99, to go to the London Fashion Awards. A guy sitting in a Kappa tracksuit, right? There you go. Life could get a bit strange, right? But anyway, so to go to the London Fashion Awards, well, right? I fucking hate fashion. I don't have a fucking clue. I like sports kit. Or, you know, in the past, I've wore some fucking, you know, designer clothes at times, but I don't care, right? Deep down, I never have, right? So I was like, I don't care. Anyway, my wife, who, well, I don't live with the wife anymore. Long story, a bit boring. But anyway, I was living with the wife at the time, and she saw the invite on the mantelpiece that I was supposed to be taking like Cherie Blair and with Paul Smith to take her to the London Fashion Awards. She was going to me one side, Paul Smith the other side. So, and she goes, I want to come. Right, and because we parked so much money in Labour, you know, in that election, right, we'd given them, we'd given them quite a bit of money, right. I was like, yeah, my wife wants to come. So Labour, you thought, oh God, this is so awkward. And in the last minute, they went, oh, she can't come. So my missus phoned up Labour and went, don't ever ask him for fucking money again.
That's right.
So anyway, like the next day or something, I was like, do you want to go for dinner at Chequers with Tony and shit?
Oh, to try and smooth it over a bit?
Yeah. And I was like, alright. But we were both like, oh. I mean, I'm from Glasgow. Well, you know, when I get invited to 10 Downing Street, I've never been asked back. And I knew I was never going to get invited back to Chequers, but I thought, fuck, I've got to go. So anyway, we go on down there. It's about 7:30 at night. And it's just me and Tony Blair talking about fucking, you know, there was an Oasis album coming up, and I only left Creation at that point. You know, and left it, you know, a few months later, but we were sitting chatting about the Oasis album. And I'm sitting talking, and then suddenly it's now then. And it's like this guy who hadn't been famous for 15 fucking years, right? Like, and it was like Jimmy Savile, and I just went, I think I said to Tony Blair, it's just got fucking weirder, do you know what I mean? And then he sat at one end of the table, kind of, you know, was a cunt basically, do you know what I mean? And I was put at the other end of the table. He was like kind of trying it on with my missus a bit, do you know what I mean? And it's just like a fucking mad guy. But I didn't know he was a paedophile. I just thought he was a dirty old man, do you know what I mean? He came with a security guy, some guy that, can't remember what his name was, but he had like 2,500 people working for him. I mean, he was definitely connected, man, do you know what I mean?
Who Savile was?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What was he doing there?
I don't know. Fuck knows. But anyway, it was a weird old dinner. It was actually alright. that guy John O'Farrell was there, that wrote the book Things Can Only Get Better. It was John Reid, the Celtic director. Judi Dench was there with her husband. It was like it was a mad dinner, man. It was a fucking mad dinner. And I was like, if that's the table, I was there. Savile was there. My missus was there. It was like she was sitting next to Judi Dench. It was all like a mad dinner, man. You know.
That's fucking mad.
We'll move on from Labour then. You got involved with Chelsea for a bit, didn't you? What period was that?
In the 90s.
Well, during the Oasis Labour period as well, so you put yourself about a bit.
Before even Labour at the time.
He invested in Chelsea. Obviously before Abramovich.
Abramovich bought my shares off me.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. But it was, what it was I started going to see Chelsea. I'd always liked Chelsea. And then I started going to see them. I would just get sober and all that sort of stuff. And then Ken Bates was on me. And have I told you the Ken Bates story?
Maybe not.
Okay, so Ken Bates is like, I'm going to Chelsea, and it's like the Oasis guy signed Oasis is into Chelsea, blah blah blah, and they're all getting excited. So suddenly it's like about 2 weeks later, the fucking phone goes on the phone system. Ken Bates for Alan McGee. So I'm like, alright, hello Mr. Chairman. Right. And I was like, alright, and people say we should meet. He's like, come over and we'll have lunch next Thursday. So I go over to the old ungentrified Chelsea, whereas it's like where the restaurant's in a sort of shed, like a proper Bovril shed, right? And then on the wall it's like steak, and steak. So we go steak, right? So we have 3 steaks. I go over with Andy Saunders, the creation communications guy, right? And we're having steak, and we have it. And at the end, Andy goes, so Ken Bates is there, Andy's there, and he goes, thanks very much, Mr. Chairman, for lunch, right? And Ken Bates goes, you asked me. So we have to buy Ken Bates lunch in his own fucking restaurant.
Fucking hell.
So it was £38, I always remember it. I've told this story a million times. It was like that's something to Ken Bates up, that he charged us for steak in his own fucking restaurant, right? So anyway, we were like, alright, whatever. It was kind of funny. It was a good £38 in a way, because we could take the piss out of Ken Bates for it, right? And then eventually, I knew Matthew Harding. And then eventually it was like, oh, do you want to put some money into Chelsea? Which I did. And then they gave me a box pretty near the halfway line. And it wasn't that expensive. It was like, I think it started off at 14 grand.
So you've invested, but you've still got to pay for the box. Well, you had to pay for your estate, didn't you?
So,
that's no surprise.
I think the Chelsea, the investment thing is the investment thing. The box. I think I got it cheap, to be honest. You know what I mean? At that point. And then I was there, and then I can't remember what I bought the shares at. I think I was maybe bought the shares at pretty cheap, £1 or something like that. But basically, it was flawed, wasn't it? Do you remember they nearly went bankrupt? Do you remember that? Right. And just as it was, I thought, oh fuck, I don't know what I bought, but I bought quite a lot of shares, and it was just at that point that it was like, fuck, it's fucked. And then Abramovich came in and fucking bought everybody's shares. Do you know what I mean? I was actually almost the last person to not sell to him. Do you know what
was you ruthless enough or shrewd enough to get a drink out of him, or?
Oh yeah, he sorted it. It was alright.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah, right.
That's the bad boy mentality.
Yeah. You any other little fucking random things I didn't know about that Chelsea thing?
Yeah, we've discussed it before. I mean, who do you support? In Glasgow?
I was brought up Rangers, but I just don't like the sectarianism. But you know what? You don't know in Glasgow, because I spent a lot of time up there staying at my pal's place in the Gorbals, and I was walking through the town the other night, right? I was up there last week for 3 days, right? I was walking through Glasgow, and it's such a mad city because of the Rangers Celtic thing. And this wee guy, I was walking through with this hat. He might have thought it was a Rangers hat, fuck knows, right? I was walking through and he goes, big man, we are a people. And you're like, and I don't know if this is just some fucking psycho that just wants to fucking nut me, oh, he actually wants to hug me. And I was like, yeah, but he just fucking kept going because it's like, it's Glasgow, you just don't know, do you know what I mean?
Fucking hell. Mate, on the, going back to the film as well, you say you go back up to Glasgow, at the end of the film it's made out that, you know...
It never happened.
No?
No, you talk about when I take this thing in for my dad.
Yeah.
It never happened.
Because in the film, obviously, you've had this relationship where you've had a tough upbringing and then it kind of comes full circle and he's kind of proud of you. I mean, what's the relationship? Did that get sorted, did it, and stuff?
Not really. I mean, it's like, it didn't. It's like, you know, I sorted my old man out. So my dad's actually, I mean, he's old now, he's still a drinker, to be honest. But, yeah, I don't know if things like that really do get sorted out. Not really, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you still see your sisters much?
A little bit, but not tons, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So, for the future, the Gulps, for example, if they took off like Oasis, do you reckon you've still got the energy?
God knows. I hope so.
Yeah.
I probably do have the energy, weirdly.
Would you ever retire?
No, I'm not retiring.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
I don't know what else can I do.
No.
So, do you know what I mean? I think I'm a manager till I drop. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Mate, what do you do for hobbies and stuff now then? Obviously, you know, you're talking about your walking and stuff in lockdown and stuff.
Fit. I mean, I'm boring, man, you know what I mean? I'm like a fucking gym instructor or something like that, do you know what I mean? So, you know, and I just keep fit, you know? I just do the music, keep fit, you know, got kids, you know, just do the things that 61-year-old geezers do.
If there was anything you could change, if you go back and live it all again, is there anything, not regrets, but is there anything you'd do different?
Maybe pay a bit more attention to education, because I think that's actually been, I did great, but I could have went much further if it actually, if somebody had kind of taught me a bit more about, you know, just about life, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I was working off my own palette.
But you haven't done too bad on with that structure.
But I just think it was. I made some uneducated.
Yeah, do you know what? Same with me. I wish I'd have been a bit more educated, but then at the same time, you probably would have missed out on a lot of stuff that was going on while you were going home. You're going home while your mates are going, you know, because you got to be in school the next day or uni. At school, I didn't even know what university was. Yeah. For me, university was like them people on University Challenger, we was never ever told about further education. Yeah. But you'd have to crack on, don't you?
It's that saying, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Well, you've got a couple of last few questions that I'd asked people wanted to know. We've covered quite a few of them. It's an interesting one. I get asked this a lot to get these on, and hopefully it'll get sorted. What are his thoughts on the real people getting fucked over for so many years by Oasis?
I don't think they got fucked over. I just think, like, I know they got away. It doesn't say it on the records, I don't think. They've got published on 3 big Oasis songs, right? You know, I mean, whereas, so I know that's happened. On acknowledgement, yeah, I think they got fucked over, to be honest. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think they were.
Because they were a big kind of inspiration for.
I was at the Cavern last night, and some guy goes, "Oh, you disappeared the Creole people," and I went, "I fucking did not disappear anyway. I'm one of the only people in from that time that talks about them and admits they were a huge influence." Do you know what I mean? I think they're a good band. They should have done better. It's fucking hard in music. Sometimes, were they better or worse than Oasis? They weren't better than Oasis, but they weren't worse than Oasis either. Do you know what I mean? It just didn't happen for them. But they're a great band. Yeah,
it's always a contentious thing. You probably won't be able to answer this. What was the craziest mental story about Oasis? It's probably one for off camera.
Yeah. What did we tell him on the way back?
Yeah, okay.
You know, there was like, I remember there was one time, so I'd had this band, Hurricane Number 1, and the wee singer was an ex-gypsy fucking fighter guy. So he was a wee hard guy, right? And his name's Alex Lowe. And anyway, so because he was big-mouthed, Alex, he was a good guy though, right? He'd said something like, "That bunch of cunts, Oasis," but he wasn't saying they're cunts. It's in Scotland, they say stuff like...
A concert term of Enzian.
Yeah.
It's Scottish, so it is what it is, right? And so basically, we're doing a gig at Ronnie Scott's, right? and so basically Liam comes with security guy, right, to have a fucking fight with Alex, right, and doesn't know that Alex is an ex-fucking gypsy boxer, right, and bare knuckle boxer. So anyway, it starts and immediately Alex doesn't back down. So the big Millwall football bully that's protecting Liam and Liam are fighting Alex. Alex isn't losing, right? So it's kind of Liam's getting sort of protected by the mad big bouncer, right? And the mad big bouncer's trying. It's impossible. And Alex is, because he's a little boxer, is dancing around them, fucking talking, punching, man. Mad. So I was the only person that could fucking be the man and stop it and take Liam out. So I take Liam out and we go to some fucking posh drinking club and Liam's fucking so angry. So he's shouting at me for 2 fucking hours in my face. It's all my fault, and I'm like, I'm almost ill, man, you know. I'm like, oh, give me a break, right? So anyway, we get out of there and eventually somebody takes the steam out of Liam's balloon and it fucking flies off and it's all, but I'm a bit like fucking totally phased and dazed by it, and I fucking hell. And then I look in the diary and I've got lunch the next day with Liam and his manager. I was like, oh fucking hell, man, this is gonna be, I've got round 2 of this barrage of fucking madness, right? Because I stopped the fight and blah blah blah, and he thinks he's been wronged and he thinks he's been disrespected, all that bollocks, right? So anyway, I walk on into the restaurant and Liam's like, alright, and he's totally changed. I was like, alright, God knows where on that went. So I sit down and he goes, sit here. So I sit next to Liam, right, and he goes, you and me should go and see the Dalai Lama. And I was like, I don't want to go. He goes, you're scared. And I went, I'm not scared. And he goes, you're fucking scared. I don't want to go meet the Dalai Lama. You're fucking scared to go meet. I'll go and see the Dalai Lama, right? So anyway, I have to get on the phone to the Dalai Lama's people, right, and arrange for me and Liam to go and meet the Dalai Lama, right? And he's going, if you go, none of that fucking John Lennon and Brian Epstein stuff, i.e. but me trying to shag Liam, right? You're alright, mate. So anyway, we booked 2 first-class tickets to Nepal. I think that's where we were going, and we're going to go and meet the Dalai Lama, and then so anyway, he's got a week off. This is when me and him are going to meet the Dalai Lama, right? And then literally, you know when you go and got the anti-malaria shot, you got to get the malaria shot. So I was going to go and get it, right? And just as it sense that a lot of people fucking blow the crackers this shot as well. Just as I was going to get the malaria shot, he phones up and he goes, McGee, can't fucking go, Patsy won't let me.
You know.
So I don't know if that's a good Oasis story, but that was kind of what it was like.
That is just mad how you can just go, right, and then that's it, you're doing it. Mate, the last one as well, because I know I've kept you, mate, is you managed the Lars for a little bit.
Yeah, very short time, man. For about for about 2 months. I ended up, I don't know how we ended up in Lee's living room, but anyway, it was like, oh, you're the right guy to do this. He played me his second album. It was brilliant. It was like the lads meet Stevie Wonder or something like that. It was kind of brilliant. And then you knew it was a downfall when he turned round to me and went, we'll do the second album when we re-record the first album. And I was like, it ain't going to work, mate.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's an amazing talent.
Anything else from you, mate?
No, we're done. We're done.
Great, man.
Thanks for having us.
All right, yeah.
Jockey, thanks for the intros, mate, Alan. It's been a massive pleasure, mate. It's really enjoyed that, mate.
Yeah, man.
Nice one, Jock, for helping me out, and thanks for the support. All the links are in the description. See you next time.